So it is currently Q4. It is the month of Christmas. It's the end of the year. It's oftentimes the biggest year for business owners and whatnot. Everybody's talking about crushing Q4 and whatnot, and I'm personally super excited for Q4 as well. However, for advertisers, it's one of the most expensive periods of the entire year, and especially this year, it is even more expensive because of Q4. Normally Black Friday, etc. Q4 is the most expensive time, but on top of that, this year we have got the presidential elections, right, in the US. And if you've got any clients, or if you're running ads yourself for your own agency, for your own brand, for your own info product, whatever it may be, you will probably be wanting to run ads in the US. Now, at the moment, Facebook themselves are spending an ungodly amount of money on Facebook to promote the elections, and also the presidential candidates themselves are spending a ridiculous amount of money on Facebook, right? And so the problem that now arises from it being Q4 as well as the presidential elections is that costs are at an all-time high, and so now getting results is harder than ever. And so in this video, I'm going to be covering exactly how you can decrease your CPMs in Q4. And if your advertising is on point, then once your CPMs decrease, then your entire funnel is going to decrease as well. So as always, just before we jump into the video, make sure you go ahead, smash the like button and subscribe to the channel. You guys know, massively helps out with the YouTube algorithm. And with that being said, let's jump straight into the video. So really there's four main ways to decrease CPMs, right? There's four main things. Let's break it down and let's go through it. There's a lot of information that we're going to go through in this video, guys. It's not going to be the most entertaining, but it's going to be one of the most actionable videos that you watch this entire year. And it's literally going to help you get better results with your Facebook ads, period. Okay, so bring a notepad and pen because we're going to be covering a lot. So first things first, you must go broad. This is a non-negotiable. So larger audiences, right? Usually at Bax Consulting, myself and the team at Bax Consulting, when we're running ads for the agency ourselves as well as clients, usually we go after audiences inside of the 1 to 3 million range. This is kind of the sweet spot that we found. This is what I go through in the Quantum Agency program because it's the sweet spot, right? It's targeted enough where majority of people in those audiences who will see the ad is going to be massively interested, given the ad resonates and all that stuff. As I say, that's what we go through in the Quantum Agency program. But it's also big enough where you can scale, right? It's not like a size of 50,000 where you can't really scale that audience. Although it's going to be targeted, you can't really scale it. 1 to 3 million is a real good sweet spot. However, during Q4, this size has significantly higher CPMs as Facebook is restricted somewhat as to who can see the ad. They're kind of boxed in, right? Which is fine usually, but in Q4, it's going to warrant significantly higher CPMs. Now, especially for agency ads, we're pushing audiences in the size of 50 to 100 million, audiences of that size. We've seen a significant drop in CPM. So this is probably pretty left wing to what you're used to. I know that if you're in the Quantum Agency program, obviously you guys get just the roadmap that we use at Bax Consulting for our clients. And, we use audience sizes of 1 to 3 million. Now, this isn't going to work in Q4. You have to go much larger. You have to go in the range of 20 million and up, because what this is going to enable Facebook to do is you're kind of just giving Facebook everything. And as you'll see, that's a common theme throughout the first points of this video, right? It's about giving Facebook just give them everything and let them optimize, let them, choose who the ad gets shown to. And this is one of the #1 ways to do it. Increase your audience sizes, give Facebook more to play with. And as I say, you'll see a significant drop. I recently relaunched the agency ads. I redid the entire funnel, and that's a concept that we go through in the higher level program. But I launched ads using our normal kind of 1 to 3 million range, sweet spot and whatnot. And the CPMs on the initial launch, CPMs were $85. That's just ridiculous, right? Usually you want your CPMs to be between 5 and 25 at the absolute max, right? $85 first launch. I was like, no. So we cut them off. And essentially what I did is I went from, as I say, an audience size that was, I believe it was, like 2.53 million. I went from an audience of that size and I relaunched the same ad set, but we're using something that another thing that we're going to go through here in a minute. Same ad set, same audience, but I just bumped that audience from 2.5 million. I think it's now around 110 million, and now the CPMs are like $30. So it's still on the higher side, but you can play with $30. You can work with a CPM of $30. That's not too bad, especially for agency ads where we're selling a 5, 6, 7, 8K a month service. So next thing, automatic placements. Again, this ties in with the same idea that I was talking about before in terms of giving Facebook, just letting them do their thing. Don't restrict them. Automatic placements. See, feed only ads, again, which we usually opt for, is the singular most sought after real estate on social. Obviously, when something's in high demand, the price increases with the increase in demand, right? It's, just that plays out everywhere, real estate, everything. And it's the same thing with the real estate on Facebook. And Instagram. So throughout the year, if your adverts resonate with your audience and the offer is strong, the increased price doesn't affect anything. As I say, this is something that happens all year. Feed-only ads are the singular most sought after real estate year-wide. It doesn't matter when it is. It doesn't matter whether it's June or January or whatever. Now, throughout the year, that's fine. The increased cost is fine, given your ads resonate, given your ads are actually speaking to the ideal, your ideal customer and whatnot. However, in Q4, the increase in price 10x's and has a huge impact on CPMs. And so now, again, you must go more broad by opting for automatic placements. You want to do as much as you can to just let Facebook take over. The increase in price, and again, this is another thing that I'm going to talk about here in a minute, but increase in prices are usually fine throughout the year. As I say, the feed-only placements it's usually fine. But what happens now in Q4, especially 2020 with the presidential candidates, the presidential election going on and whatnot, the increase in price gets inflamed. So what may be a 20% increase is now an 80% increase. As I say, I don't want to touch on that too much because I'm going to detail it in a lot more depth here in a minute, but just remember that automatic placements. Now DTE, right? So that stands for detailed targeting expansion. Now, you may be thinking, right, what audiences are good to target that are in the 50 to 100 million range? Well, to be honest, there's really not that many, right? So what we do, again, this is strictly only in Q4, is we turn on detailed targeting expansion. We don't normally do this simply because you can't track exactly where the purchases / results are coming from, given the nature of DTE. But right now it enables you to have much larger audience sizes, which further decreases CPM. So tying back in with my first point, you want to have audience sizes ideally above 20 million, right? But a lot of the targeting options that you've got, if you was just to do a singular interest, a lot of them won't be 20 million, first things first. And also, even if they are 20 million, they're not going to be targeted in any way, shape or form. So what DTE allows you to do is basically do whatever interest you want to do. For example, like say with the agency ads, we launched with one interest. That interest was 2.5, 3 million. So, that was perfectly fine, but CPMs were like $85. So what we did is I duplicated that ad set and turned on DTE. So I'm still targeting the same audience. I just bumped the audience size from 2.5 to like 110 million, I think it's at now, by turning DTE on. And CPMs have literally, I think, as I said before, the $30, $25, $30. So, that's perfect for Q4. This is what we need to do. However, the reason we don't do it year round, you may be thinking, why don't you just do that year round? Well, the reason is because you can't track it as well. So what DTE is essentially is basically Facebook expands the audience size based on who they can see is purchasing within that interest, which again is all well and good, but as soon as they expand it, you don't know where that person now has come from, right? So when you target Nike, for example, the interest, and DTE is off, then all purchases, all results are coming from the Nike interest. Whereas when you turn it on, you don't know if it's come from the Nike interest or somebody else that Facebook's seen can actually buy your product or whatever it is, so you can't really track it as well. But again, for Q4, make sure it is on because it's going to massively, massively help your CPM. Finally, again, tying in with that idea that I talked about before, with giving Facebook more to play with, CBO. So CPMs naturally are higher on smaller audiences, okay? You'll find that your retargeting CPMs are always higher than your cold CPMs. And that's because Facebook has less to work with, they're restricted. So given this theme, CBOs will help decrease CPMs because you essentially let Facebook decide where they show what ads to which audiences. And when you couple this with the previous points we talked about on this initial point, you'll see a noticeable decrease in cost. So that plays into that idea, right? Facebook like to kind of do their own thing. They don't like to feel restricted, and we can restrict them year wide. Q4, increase costs and all that type of stuff. You need to just let them do their thing. And really, you just need to focus on your copy and your creative. Now, copy and creative, talking on the topic of that, as a perfect segue into the next point, which is you cannot run ads. So what do I mean by this? Well, first things first, I want to touch on this point. Inflamed costs. So during any other time of the year, increased costs won't hurt you that much, given your advertising copy creative is on point. However, in Q4, that 10% increase in cost now jumps to 50, 60%, etc. Whatever it is, it's inflamed. So you must avoid unnecessary costs at all costs, no pun intended. Now, as I say, I've already kind of touched on this point. So let's have a look at ads that look like ads, right? One of the most noticeable impacts on your CPMs year round is the copy and the creative. So for example, we have an info product client, and this is a real life example, by the way. We have an info product client who has, mock-ups of the product. So if you go to and this is not a pitch for the program, but if you go to the enrollment page for the Quantum Leap e-community program, which is the first link in the description, when you go onto that page, you'll see there's like an image of me of the program on like a computer. There's one on like an iPhone, I'm pretty sure, and there's one on an iPad or a laptop, something like that. That's basically an info product mock-up, right? That's kind of like what you get for the program. It's like a it's basically a mock-up, right? So we, this specific client that I'm talking about had one of those mock-ups. Now we ran retargeting ads with those mock-ups as the creative, right? Because the audience had, obviously already been sold, and they now just need to see/understand what they're going to be actually buying. That's kind of the idea for retargeting ads. Keep in mind, right, the average CPM for this account is roughly $25, right? Because it's an info product, it's in kind of like a real competitive space, etc. So $25, roughly the average CPM. The ads with the mock-up creatives were running at around a $40 CPM on average, right? This increase is obvious, this increase in the CPM, and this is year round, I'm not talking Q4 here. And so this increase of, it's not desirable, but it wasn't too bad because the results were still there, May through August. Now, bear in mind, we've obviously already cut these ads, but because Q4 inflamed the increase even more, that CPM has now just jumped from like roughly $40 to around $65 and above. I think it was actually teetering around the $70 mark. And obviously at which point we just can't run them, right? So that's because the ad looks like an ad, and we knew it looked like an ad, but it was working beforehand for the retargeting audience. The ROAS was there, and really at the end of the day, the ROAS is what matters most. That's the most important thing. So if that's there, run the ad because it's working, right? Whereas in Q4 now, the CPM rose from $40 to $65. And that's because the ad looks like an ad, and you just simply cannot run those types of ads, because, as I say, ads that look like ads are increase anyway, no matter what time of the year it is. But usually it'll be okay, especially for retargeting, because they're already in the funnel, they already know the product, what it does, they've been sold. Now they just need to see what they're buying. Usually those types of ads where you kind of show what they're buying look like ads. But as I say, it's fine because the ROAS usually is there. But now, because Q4 inflames the cost, it's gonna inflame the cost to a point that it just you can't run ads at that point, right? And the ROAS obviously decreases. So the way to combat that is to think outside the box. This is so important, right? So because of this, as of what I was talking about before, because of this, you must start thinking outside the box when it comes to your ad creative and copy. Given that the client is on board, try and go as left wing as possible and be as unique as you can. Now, as I say, given the client's on board, make sure the client's happy to run the kind of super left wing unique ads. If they are on board, go ahead and leverage that as much as possible, because this will not only separate your client from the competition anyway, but it's gonna warrant a much better response from the audiences that you're running them to, right? And as I've explained on the channel before, Facebook's #1 priority is their user experience, and so they routinely reward ads that people love with better CPMs. Now, we need to take advantage of all these small, minute things during Q4. This is one of those small things, right? Facebook rewards advertisers where their ads genuinely resonate with the audience, and the audience who are looking at that really enjoy seeing the ad. They're interacting with it, they're commenting, they're sharing, all that type of stuff. As I said, because Facebook values their user experience above really majority of other things, they're gonna reward you. They're gonna want you to keep pushing that ad, keep running that, because they know their users like to see it. how they're going to reward you is by lowering your CPM. So that's super important. Whereas on the flip side, if your ads don't resonate, if they look like ads, they're not getting interaction, all that type of stuff, Facebook's going to do the opposite thing. They're going to hit you with higher CPMs. And again, that high CPM, sometimes, throughout the year, it's okay. We can deal with it. But because inflamed cost during Q4, that just then puts it out of proportion and you can't run the ad anymore. Now, third and final point. Facebook feedback score. So essentially, the Facebook feedback score is a number assigned to your ad account that is based on the feedback they've collated from customers who've seen your ads or bought from the brand through an advert. Now you can actually visit this link on the screen to check client Facebook feedback scores. I'll leave actually this link in the description, so if you want to check out what your clients are at, you can have a look through that link. So that's essentially what the feedback score is. Now, if you've ever run any ads for any noticeable amount of time, you'll probably know about this score. How does it impact CPMs though? Well, again, Facebook rewards the advertisers that bring a smile to Facebook users. This can be in the form of a great product/service and the advertisements that people actually really like to see. And as I say, on the flip side, Facebook will negatively impact those users who do the complete opposite, run ads that people don't want to see. So what should you do? Well, for the most part, the Facebook feedback score should be fine, right? Majority of clients, the Facebook feedback score will be fine because they should have a good product. You shouldn't be working with clients who have a bad service, bad product, slow shipping times, all that stuff. So you should be fine. And if it's above a 3, then it'll be okay. Obviously, it's the scores ranked on from 0 to 5. 5 is perfect. 0, you won't be able to run ads. So anything above a 3 is okay. Ideally, you want it to be a 4 or 5. However, if it's below a 3, then your client, first of all, if it's below a 3, it's not good, right? But if it is below a 3, then your client would have gotten an email from Facebook. And within that email lists the reasons why their score is below a 3, okay? It will say why it's below a 3, why they've gotten a bad Facebook feedback score. And so in order to fix it, that's one thing you need to know with Facebook feedback scores, they can be improved, which is the good thing. So in order to improve it, you/the client, whoever, if you want to kind of take over and help your client out, then you can, or the client themselves must take action on the feedback given. If they don't, then your CPMs will be obnoxiously high. And if the score gets worse, then the ad account will get shut down. Again, goes back to what I was saying before. These costs are going to be obnoxiously high. And because it's Q4, competition is the highest it's ever been on Facebook, especially this year. Those costs now will get inflamed, and it's at that point that running ads literally doesn't make sense because you've got CPMs of $100, $150, $80, $70, even $60. It's not good. Ideally, you want your CPM to be between 5 to 15 is a perfect range, but you can kind of go up to $30 depending on the product. If the product is a cheaper product, $30 isn't good. But for example, for the agency ads that we're running at the moment, it's fine. $30 is kind of, it's an okay CPM to work with because our product is so high ticket, right? And because it's rolling month by month, it's not just 5,000 or 6,000 or 8,000. It's like 8,000 over the course of 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, whatever, however it works with the specific client that comes on board through the ad. So that's okay. But where if you've got a client whose products are like $30, $20, $50, even $100, ideally you want that CPM to be under $20. And so this video hopefully brought some value to you in terms of how you can decrease those CPMs during Q4, during the most expensive time of the year, and really most expensive time in the last 4 years since the previous election. So as I say, hope you found value in this video. If you did, go ahead, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video.